Evan Cross had never expected to leave Earth. He was just a young engineer working on a space station far from home. His job was simple: check the ship's engines, clean the filters, and make sure the systems worked. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't brave. He just liked machines, but everything changed the day. Their ship was attacked. Evan was on the lower deck when alarms started ringing. The captain shouted orders. The crew ran everywhere. Outside, a fleet of enemy ships appeared like shadows in space. They were from the Zalari Empire, one of the most feared powers in the galaxy. The Terran ship stood no chance. "Get to the escape pods!" Someone yelled. Evan ran. He didn't grab a weapon. He didn't grab supplies. He just jumped into the nearest pod and hit the launch button. Boom. The ship exploded behind him. His pod spun wildly through space. He had no control. The pod's screen blinked red. "Critical damage," it said. A planet appeared below, growing bigger and bigger. Then crash. When Evan opened his eyes, he was lying in a jungle. The pod was broken. Smoke rose from the cracked engine. His arm hurt. His leg was bleeding. Strange animal sounds filled the air. The sky was green and the trees were tall and glowing. "I'm alive," he whispered, but he didn't feel lucky. This was Zeller Prime, homeworld of the Zellari. And he had crashed right in the heart of enemy territory. He tried to move, but footsteps came from the trees. Tall figures with armor and glowing eyes appeared. Their skin was dark like polished stone, and their heads were smooth with lines of silver running down their faces. Zellari soldiers. One of them raised a weapon. Another kicked Evan to the ground. "Human," one of them said coldly. "Enemy." "No, wait." Evan tried to explain, but they didn't listen. They tied his hands, covered his eyes, and dragged him away. Evan was thrown into a dark prison cell. The walls were stone. The floor was cold. He had no bed, no blanket, just a pipe in the wall, dripping water, and a metal tray with strange, tasteless food. Every hour felt like a day. The guards ignored him. He didn't know if they would execute him or leave him to rot. He tried to stay calm, but fear crawled inside him. He was all alone. On the third day, something strange happened. The guards came again, but this time they didn't hit him. They told him to stand. They cleaned him with a spray, gave him new clothes, and took him out of the prison. "Where are we going?" he asked, but no one answered. They led him through long hallways, golden doors, and glowing gardens. At the center of it all stood a tall figure in silver armor, Queen Saraxa, ruler of the Zalari Empire. She stood calmly, her arms crossed. Her eyes were deep violet, sharp and watchful. Her black hair flowed behind her like silk. Around her, the guards bowed low, but she did not bow. She simply looked at Evan. "You are the human from the crash," she said. Evan nodded slowly. "Yes, I didn't mean to land here." "You were not sent to spy?" "No, I'm just an engineer. I fix engines and machines." She tilted her head. "Interesting. You are not like the others." Evan didn't know what to say. After a pause, she turned and pointed to a nearby fountain. It was dry. The garden around it was dying. Flowers were turning brown. The mist system was broken. "This was once the most beautiful place in my palace," she said. "Now it is silent." She looked at Evan. "Can you fix it?" He blinked. "The garden system?" "Yes, if you fix it, you may live." He nodded quickly. "I'll try." For the next week, Evan worked on the system. He studied the pipes, the pumps, the wires. The technology was alien and complex, but he learned fast. He repaired the water lines. He rewired the mist controls. Every day, under guard, he returned to the garden, and every day the queen came. To watch, she never said much. She stood in silence, her arms behind her back, observing him. Evan didn't speak unless spoken to. But something about her presence was ... On the sixth day, she brought a small plate of food herself. "Eat," she said. "Prison food is not real food." He looked at her with surprise. "Thank you." "Don't mistake kindness for safety," she replied. "I don't," he said honestly. "But ... I think you're not as cruel as the galaxy says." That made her pause. "Cruelty is a tool," she said, "but I do not enjoy it." And then she walked away. On the seventh day, Evan finished the repairs. Water flowed through the garden. Again, the fountain came to life. The glowing flowers opened under the cool mist. Soft music began to play from hidden speakers. The garden lived again. Queen Siraxa arrived just as the final system activated. "It works," Evan said, stepping back. She walked slowly into the garden. The mist surrounded her. Light reflected on her armor. Her violet eyes glowed softly. "You have done well," she said. "I'm glad." Evan replied. She looked at him with an unreadable expression. "You may ask for something," she said. "A reward," Evan hesitated. Then he asked, "Why did you bring me here?" The queen didn't answer right away. Finally, she said, "Because you looked at me without fear. I wanted to know why." Evan said nothing, but inside he felt something. Strange. He wasn't just a prisoner anymore, and Queen Siraxa wasn't just an alien. Evan Cross now walked freely inside the palace of the Zalari Empire. He was still watched by guards, but no longer treated like a prisoner. After fixing the royal garden, Queen Siraxa had not sent him back to the cold cell. Instead, she gave him clean clothes, better food, and a small room near the garden. Evan didn't know why she showed him kindness, but something had changed between them. He saw it in her eyes when she watched him work. She didn't just see an enemy anymore. Still, he was careful. One morning, a guard knocked on his door. "The queen calls for you," he said. Evan followed the guard through the shining halls of the palace. The walls were made of smooth white stone. Glowing lights floated in the air. Strange music played from hidden corners. It was a world of peace and power, yet Evan felt nervous. He entered a tall chamber with long windows and a view of the jungle below. Queen Siraxa stood near a table, looking at a hologram of a Zalari ship. Her armor was gone today. She wore a flowing black robe with silver lines. She looked more like a woman than a warrior. "You called me?" Evan asked, bowing slightly. "Yes," she said without turning. "I want to give you a task." "A test." Evan stepped closer. "Another machine to fix?" "No," she said. She turned to face him. "This time, it is a test of trust." He frowned. "What do you mean?" She walked to a nearby table. On it was a small, damaged drone. It looked like human tech Terran design. Burn marks were across its side. "This drone crashed in our territory," she said. "It carries data. Human military data. My people believe it is dangerous." Evan looked at the drone. "Do you want me to destroy it?" "No," Siraxa replied. "I want you to open it." He stared at her. "Why me?" "Because you are human. You understand your technology better than my engineers." Evan nodded slowly. "And if I refuse?" "Then I will respect your choice," she said. "But you will go back to your cell." He looked at the drone again. He didn't want to betray his people, but he also didn't want to go back to being a prisoner. More than that, he didn't want to lose her trust. "I'll look at it," he said. For the next 2 hours, Evan worked alone in a special room under guard. He carefully opened the drone, scanned its systems, and read the files. Most of the data was damaged, but he found one file that wasn't. It was a log orders from the Terran High Command. Evan read it slowly. The message said that the humans were planning a secret attack on the Zalari border. The mission had already begun. Ships were on their way. The drone was supposed to return with map data to guide the fleet. Evan froze. This was war. And now he had a choice: keep it secret, or tell the queen. He returned to her chambers, carrying the drone. She stood by the window, looking at the red sky. "Well?" she asked. Evan hesitated. Then he spoke. "It's real. There's a mission. My people. They're planning to attack." The room went quiet. She turned slowly, her face calm but serious. "You told me the truth," she said. "Even though it could cost your people the battle," he nodded. "I didn't want to lie." "I owe you that." She walked up to him. "You passed the test." Evan blinked. "What?" She touched a panel, and the drone's data vanished from the screen. "I already knew what the drone carried," she said. "I only wanted to see what choice you would make." Evan looked shocked. "So this was all just a test?" "Yes," she said. "And you chose trust?" He sat down slowly. "I feel strange." "Why?" "Because I just betrayed my own people," he said softly. No, she replied. You didn't give me the battle plans. You didn't give me weapons. You simply told me the truth. He looked at her, confused. Then why do I still feel like the enemy? She sat across from him. Because you are between two worlds now. That night, Evan couldn't sleep. He stood by the window of his room, looking at the stars. He thought of Earth, of the people he left behind. He thought of the Queen and how she had tested him, but, more than anything, he thought of how he felt when she looked at him, not with hate, but with something softer, curiosity, respect, maybe something else. He didn't know what to call it yet. The next morning, a gift was waiting outside his door, a small crystal flower from the royal garden. It was glowing blue, wrapped in silver cloth. A short note came with it, written in both human and Zalari language. You are not just a guest. You are now part of this story. Saraxivan held the flower in his hand, feeling the soft light against his skin. His life had changed. He had arrived on this planet by accident. But now, he wasn't sure he wanted to leave. Evan Cross had been on Zeller Prime for over 2 weeks now. He was no longer seen as a prisoner by most of the guards. He walked freely through parts of the palace, always under light watch, but never in chains. The servants greeted him with quiet nods. Some even smiled, but not everyone liked his presence. Whispers followed him wherever he went. He's human, some said. He should not be near the Queen. What does she see in him? Evan tried to ignore the voices, but he felt the stares. He was different, alone, a stranger in a kingdom of aliens, and yet, every time Queen Saraxa looked at him, those feelings disappeared. One afternoon, the Queen invited Evan to a private hall for tea. It was a quiet room with smooth walls, a small indoor waterfall, and soft golden cushions. A servant brought a tray with glowing blue tea and honeyed fruits. Saraxa sat across from him, more relaxed than usual. Her long robe shimmered with soft lights. Do you like it here? She asked. Evan paused. It's peaceful, and strange. But yes, I think I do. She looked into her tea. Most humans see Zeller Prime only in war reports. You see it with fresh eyes. I never wanted war, Evan said. I only wanted to work with machines. And yet here you are, she replied. They both smiled. It felt warm, simple, but full of quiet emotion. But just as Evan reached for the tea, a guard entered quickly and knelt. My queen, he said. General Vecker requests your presence in the war hall. Saraxa stood immediately. Something must have happened. She looked at Evan. Come with me. The war hall was filled with Solari leaders. Large screens showed maps of space. Ships were marked in red and blue. One red fleet was moving fast toward the Zalari border. General Vecker, tall and covered in black armor, turned as the Queen entered. Your Majesty, the humans are moving, he said. Our spies say their ships will reach the outer moons in 3 days. Evan stood silently in the back. All the eyes in the room noticed him. Vecker pointed toward him. Why is the human here? Saraxa answered calmly. Because he may help. Vecker frowned. He is still an outsider. Evan stepped forward. I can't stop the attack, but maybe I can help you prepare. Vecker scoffed. And why would a human help us stop other humans? Because not all humans want war, Evan said. And I owe my life to your queen. The room went quiet. Saraxa spoke. Evan has earned my trust. He stays. Vecker bowed stiffly. As you command. But as the queen turned to the maps, Vecker's eyes remained cold. Later that night, Evan walked alone through the garden. The stars above were bright. The soft lights of the trees reflected on the water. He sat by the fountain he had fixed days ago. He didn't notice Saraxa arrive until she sat beside him. You did well today, she said. Vecker doesn't agree. He doesn't trust anyone, not even me. They sat in silence for a while. Then Evan asked, Why do you trust me? She looked at him. Because you speak with truth and because ... I feel something I cannot explain. He turned toward her. What kind of feeling? She hesitated. Something soft. Something warm. Something that does not belong in war. He nodded. I feel it too. She placed her hand on his. It was cool but gentle. I never thought I would feel this for a human. she said softly. And I never thought I'd fall for a queen, he replied. They both laughed quietly. The sound of it floated in the garden air, but not far away. Someone else watched from the shadows. General Vecker stood near the garden wall. Hidden in the dark, his eyes narrowed as he saw the queen's hand on the humans. He turned and walked away without a word. The next day, things changed. Evan was not allowed to walk the halls freely. 2 new guards stood outside his room. When he asked why, they said it was for security reasons. At lunch, no one spoke to him. Only a short note arrived, written by Siraxa. Stay quiet. Something moves in the shadows. I will find the truth. Evio felt a chill. Was Vecker planning something? That night, Evan couldn't sleep. He stared at the crystal flower Siraxa had given him. It still glowed softly, a reminder of trust and something more. Suddenly, he heard a noise, a soft tap at his door. He opened it slightly. It was a servant girl, her eyes wide with fear. They plan to blame you, she whispered. They will say you gave secret data to Earth's army. They will say you betrayed the Queen. What? Evan said, shocked. Vecker hates you. He has already sent word to the council. Evan felt his chest tighten. What should I do? The girl handed him a key. Go to the old tunnels under the east wing. Hide there. The Queen will come. Before he could thank her, she ran off. Evan didn't waste time. He grabbed a cloak, hid the flower in his bag, and slipped into the hall. The shadows were thick. Every sound felt louder than it should, but he had to go. He couldn't let them take him again. He had come too far. Evan Cross moved quickly through the hidden tunnels under the east wing of the palace. The air was cool and smelled of old stone. His footsteps echoed softly as he followed a narrow path, guided only by a dim light from the crystal flower in his pocket. He didn't know how long he had before General Vecker made his move. He only knew one thing. Queen Siraxa had warned him, and he trusted her. At the end of the tunnel, Evan found a small chamber. It looked ancient, with carvings of Zilari, symbols on the walls. There was a broken bench and a rusted door that led to what once was a secret escape path. He sat down, tired but alert. As he waited, he thought about everything that had happened. He had come to this world as a prisoner. Now, he was being hunted as a traitor. But somewhere in between, he had found something rare: respect, kindness, even love. Meanwhile, in the main palace, Queen Siraxa stood before the Zilari High Council. 12 alien elders sat in a circle, their eyes glowing with concern and anger. Behind them stood General Vecker, silent but proud. One of the elders spoke. Your Majesty, the human was seen speaking with one of our data messengers. Soon after, a signal was sent toward Earth's fleet. Another added, he is not one of us. He should not have walked freely in our palace. Siraxa raised her hand. You forget he was cleared of all danger. He helped us. He told us about the human fleet before the attack even began. Vecker finally spoke. That may have been part of his plan. Earn your trust, then strike from within. I gave him no secret codes, Siraxa said firmly, and no proof has been found. An elder asked, where is the human now? He has disappeared, Vecker said quickly. He fled before we could question him. That sounds like guilt, another elder muttered. Siraxa clenched her fists. Or fear. The room fell quiet. The decision was close, but Siraxa's heart burned with fire. She could not let them hurt Evan, not after everything he had done. Not after everything they had shared. I ask for time, she said. Give me 1 day. Let me find him and prove the truth. The elders whispered among themselves. After a pause, they agreed. 1 day, Your Majesty. If the human cannot prove his innocence, he will be handed to the warriors. No more delays, Siraxa bowed. Understood. Then she turned and left the hall, her eyes dark with purpose. Evan didn't sleep that night. The stone bench was hard, and every sound made him worry. What if Siraxa didn't find him? What if the council chose to believe Vecker? He stood up and paced the chamber. He knew there was only one way to fix this. He had to find proof that Vecker was lying, but how? Suddenly he remembered something the servant girl had said. They will say you gave secret data to Earth's army. But Evan never had access to any Zilari data. So someone must have faked it. Then an idea came to him. The palace garden had a hidden communication terminal used only by royal staff. Evan had repaired part of it when he worked on the garden systems. What if someone used that terminal to send a false signal? If he could access its memory logs, he could find out who sent the message. Just before dawn, Evan left the chamber and returned to the garden tunnels. The way was long and risky, but he knew every corner now. When he reached the terminal, he carefully opened the panel. The screen flickered dot lines of data. Rolled across it, he searched the log dot, and there it was, a coded message sent during the night. But the signal wasn't from Evan's room. It was sent using General Vecker's private clearance. Code. His heart jumped. This was it. He copied the data onto a chip and closed the panel. As he turned to leave, a voice shouted behind him, "Stop!" Guards rushed toward him. Evan ran. He dodged between the trees and jumped over a wall. He didn't get far before he was caught and pushed to the ground. One guard spoke into his comm. "We have him." An hour later, Evan stood in the Great Hall. Again, this time in chains. The High Council gathered once more. General Vecker stood tall and proud, ready to finish what he started, but before anyone could speak, Queen Saraxa entered the room with a calm but powerful presence. "Wait," she sighed. "I have new evidence." She walked forward, holding the chip Evan had hidden in his clothes. She placed it in the center of the table. The hologram lit up. The message logs appeared. The data showed the truth. The signal was sent from the garden. Terminal using Vecker's code. The council stared in silence. Vecker's face turned dark. "This proves nothing," he shouted, but one elder stood. "Your code was used. This is serious." Another added, "Why would a human create such a risk only to reveal it himself?" Vecker growled, his claws flexing. "He's tricked you all." Saraxa raised her hand. "Enough, the truth is clear." She turned to the council. "Evan Cross is no traitor. He is loyal. He risked his life to uncover the truth. I trust him with my kingdom and my heart." Gasps filled the chamber. Evan looked at her, shocked, but her eyes were sure. The council spoke after a pause. "General Vecker will be removed from duty. The human will be granted full protection as a royal guest." Saraxa smiled. Evan could barely speak. He was free and something more. That night, in the garden where it all began, Saraxa and Evan stood under the stars. "You saved me," he said. "No," she replied. "You saved us all." She stepped closer. "There is something I must say," she whispered. "What is it?" She took his hand. "I don't care what world you came from. This is your home now, if you want it." Evan looked at her and smiled. "I do." Days passed quietly in the Zilari Palace after General Vecker's fall. The council had removed him from power, and his supporters faded into silence. Queen Saraxa remained strong, but her eyes showed the weight of many thoughts. Evan was no longer a prisoner, no longer a stranger. He walked the gardens without guards. He spoke to engineers and scholars who now respected him. Servants bowed kindly. Some called him the human who stood with the queen. But not all was peaceful. The human fleet, still moving near Zilari. Space had not turned away. They waited near the border moons, silent, watching. "They think we are weak now," said Counselor Marnik during a meeting. "They think Saraxa is distracted by her feelings." Another elder added, "If they attack, we must respond with full force." Saraxa sat on her throne, quiet, thoughtful. Then she said, "No, we will not attack first. I will send a message to the human fleet." Everyone in the room looked shocked. "A message?" Marnik asked. "Why?" "Because I believe there is still hope for peace," she said. "And because Evan is the proof." Evan stepped forward beside her. "I will go with the message," he said. "I can speak to them. Maybe they will listen to one of their own." There was silence in the chamber. Then one council member said, "Let him try. If he fails, we still have our weapons." Saraxa looked at Evan. "Are you sure you want to do this?" He smiled. "For you?" "Yes." That night, Saraxa and Evan stood alone on a balcony overlooking the shining city. "Do you think they'll listen?" Evan asked. "I don't know," she said, "but I believe in you." They stood close, the stars above reflecting in their eyes. "If anything happens," Evan began. She stopped him with a touch on his arm. "Nothing will happen," she said. Because I will wait for you, Evan nodded. Then I will come back. The next morning, Evan boarded a small Zalari diplomatic ship. It was not made for battle. It carried no weapons. Only a peace flag and a message from the Queen. As he left the atmosphere, he looked back at Zeller Primates, blue clouds, silver oceans, and golden cities. It had become more than just a strange planet. It had become his home. After a short journey, the ship reached the edge of human space. A fleet of human warships floated in the darkness. Their lights blinked like eyes in the night. Unknown ship. Identify yourself, came a voice from the human command channel. Evan leaned forward. This is Evan Cross, engineer of Earth Fleet. I come with a message from the Queen of Zeller Prime. There was silence on the line for a moment. Then another voice replied, Evan Cross. You were listed as missing in action. I'm alive. And I'm not your enemy. The line cut for several seconds. Then, prepare to be boarded, don't resist. A group of human soldiers entered his ship, scanned him, and took him to the command cruiser. Evan was led into a large control room where Admiral Brenner waited. She was tall, strict, and wore a dark blue uniform. You've caused a lot of confusion. Even, she said. We thought the Zalari captured or killed you. They did capture me, Evan said, but they didn't kill me. They showed me mercy. Brenner narrowed her eyes. Mercy? From Zalari? Yes, and more than that. They gave me a home. The officers in the room looked at each other. You fell in love with one of them, didn't you? Brenner asked sharply. Evan nodded. With the Queen, the room went silent. I didn't plan it. It happened by accident, but now it's real. Brenner crossed her arms. Why are you here? I came with a message of peace. The Queen doesn't want war. She wants to meet face to face with a human leader. She wants to stop the blood before it starts again. Brenner turned away, thinking, she's trying to divide us, said one officer. It's a trap. No, it's not, Evan said. She could have killed me many times. But she didn't. She saved me. The Admiral looked at Evan for a long time. Finally, she said, we'll consider it. For the next 2 days, Evan waited in a guest chamber on the command ship. He had no weapons, no way to escape. Only hope. He looked at the crystal flower Saraxa had given him. It still glowed faintly, reminding him of her promise. Then, just before dawn on the third day, the door opened. Admiral Brenner entered. We're sending one ship, she said. A neutral ship, unarmed. You'll guide us in. Evan stood up. Thank you, but listen carefully, she added. If this is a trap, if anything happens, we won't stop to ask questions. We'll fire everything we have. I understand. As the human ship entered Zalari space, Saraxa waited in the royal landing hall. She wore a simple robe of silver and blue, no crown, no armor. Only truth. When the ship landed, the doors opened slowly. Evan stepped out first, and behind him, Admiral Brenner. Saraxa walked forward. The two leaders stood face to face. The room was quiet, filled with guards from both sides. Saraxa spoke first. Thank you for coming. Brenner looked around. I didn't come for politics. I came because of him. She nodded toward Evan. Then let him speak, Saraxa said. Evan stepped between them. We've all lost people. We've all suffered. But it doesn't have to go on. I know both of you want peace more than war, so let's start here, with one meeting. One chance. The silence held. Then Brenner said softly, one meeting. Saraxa smiled. One chance. That evening, the first true peace meeting began on Zeller Prime. It would not be easy. It would take time, but for the first time in many years, humans and Zalari sat together. Not as enemies, but as voices for hope. And at the heart of it all stood one human and one alien queen. The first meeting between humans and the Zalari ended with no shouting, no fighting, and no war. That alone was a great success. It was held in a glass chamber above the sky gardens of Zeller Prime. The stars shone all around the room, and the scent of glowing flowers filled the air. Evan sat beside Queen Saraxa, while Admiral Brenner spoke to the Zalari Council. The tone was calm but careful. Both sides still carried old pain, but now there was a bridge between them built on trust. Not weapons. Evan looked at Seraxa. She looked back with eyes full of hope. After the meeting ended, everyone stood. There were no handshakes, yet Solari customs were different, but there were nods, soft words, and quiet signs of respect. Over the next few weeks, things began to change. The human fleet pulled back from the border moons. The Zolari opened their communication channels for the first time in years. A small team of human scientists arrived to study Zolari healing tech, while Zolari architects visited Earth colonies to learn about human building styles. And Evan, he stayed on Zeller Prime. He had a choice now. He could return to Earth, where he had no family left, no real home, or he could remain here, where his life had changed completely. One night, as the twin moons rose, Seraxa invited him to a quiet hill above the palace. The grass glowed softly under the starlight. A breeze moved through the trees. They sat side by side, not speaking at first. Finally, Seraxa asked, "Do you ever wish to go back?" Evan thought for a long moment. "I miss some things," he said. "But what I missed most. She looked at him gently. "You were never meant to stay a prisoner." "No," he smiled. "I was meant to find something more." She took his hand. "I've spoken with the council," she said. "They still find it strange, a human and a queen, but they see what you've done. They see the peace we've started." Evan listened. "They've agreed," she continued. "If you choose to stay, you will not just be welcome, you will be one of us." He blinked. "Truly?" Seraxa nodded. "And if you wish it, you may stand beside me, not as a servant, not as a guest, but as my equal." Evan's heart beat faster. "You mean?" "I mean," she smiled, "that I would like you to be more than a visitor in my world." He looked at her, at the stars, at the strange, beautiful world that had once been his cage and was now his home. "I choose this," he said. "I choose you." The announcement was quiet but powerful. The Queen of Zeller Prime would take a human as her life companion. Some cheered, some questioned, but no one could deny the change Evan had brought to their world. The ceremony was held in the Grand Sky Hall. It wasn't a wedding in Earth's way. It was a bond ceremony held under the moons with light crystals, wind flutes, and sky petals that floated in the air. Evan wore a robe of dark blue. Seraxa wore one of silver and gold. They stood before the council and the people. Seraxa spoke first. "This world was built on pride and pain, but today we choose something greater: connection." Then Evan stepped forward. "I came here by accident. I was afraid, but now I see. Sometimes the best things in life happen when we least expect them." He looked at her and smiled. "I found peace, love, and a reason to stay." The sky filled with soft music. 2 white firebirds flew over the palace. The people of Zeller and the few humans invited to witness clapped with joy. It was a new beginning. After the ceremony, Avon and Seraxa returned to the royal gardens, the place where it all began. Seraxa touched a flower, the same type Evan had once picked when he was just a prisoner cleaning her garden. "It started here," she said. "Yes," he smiled. "With a mistake," she laughed softly. "No, with something brave." They sat on a carved bench made of stardust stone. "So," Evan said, "what happens next?" She looked at him. "We rebuild," she said. "We heal, we show our children a better way." He leaned his head on her shoulder. "I like that," he said. Months passed. Peace talks between humans and Zellari continued to grow stronger. Joint missions were planned. Trade ships moved across space. Even mixed space stations were proposed. Evan became more than just Seraxa's companion. He became a symbol, a bridge between 2 worlds. He helped design new learning centers for both human and Zellari youth, where they could study each other's languages, history, and dreams. He stood beside Seraxa during council meetings, always reminding them of what understanding could do. And Seraxa, she changed too. She smiled more. She walked among her people more often. She ruled not with fear, but with vision. Together they were not perfect, but they were proof that love, even between different worlds, could shape the future. Years later, under the same hill where they first sat alone, Seraxa and Evan watched a group of young children playing. Some were human, some were Zellari, some were both. They laughed, ran, and built tiny sand cities together. Evan looked at them and smiled. You were right, he said. About what? She asked. That this world ... it could be better. She leaned her head against him. Only because we dared to believe in each other. The sky turned orange as the sun dipped low, a soft breeze moved through the trees, and in that quiet moment, they sat together, two souls from different stars, bound not by blood, not by duty, but by something far stronger, love.